All right. Well, first of all, thank you all for joining us here today for this opportunity to talk a little bit about our season, our postseason. It's always great to have this type of coverage. I mean, obviously, it makes a big difference for our fans, makes a big difference in our recruiting. So thank you all for joining. Obviously, we're about ready to start the second season. We talked to our guys about. And at this point, you get in the playoffs, and it's I've said this in the past, but it's fighting for the life of your football team. And that's a Coach Willis saying that I can hear him saying in the back of my head when I was a player. You get to this point, and every day you got to cherish every day because it's winding down, and you don't know how much longer you got to be able to play together. And so every time we go out there and practice, every time we get a chance to play in a game like this, we're fighting for the life of our football team, fighting for the opportunity to compete together for one more day. And I think that's a motivator. That's one of the things for our guys. They love spending time together. They love each other, and that's been a big part of the success of this team is just that bond that we have within our group. And so I'm excited to be able to. I told them last night, man, there's no place I'd rather be than out there at practice with them. And this is like a Christmas come early to be able to continue to play football and do what we're going to do. So obviously it's been a great year. Looking back on that week 2 game, I think everyone can think back to what Wartburg football looked like on that particular day against St. John's. And where we've come to today, and it's been a great road, seeing our guys develop throughout the year, get better every week, and persevere through some really complicated conference games. So I feel like we've really prepared ourselves well for this opportunity in the playoffs, and we know we're going to get a great team with Platville coming in here. We know quite a bit about them. We do scrimmage them in the preseason. Pretty much every year we've been doing that for 10 to 15 years now, and they have 2 coaches on their staff that are former Wartburg guys. So, like I said, we know a lot about them. They know a lot about us. And, I think our teams have both had a great road to get to where we are today. And it should be a heck of a football game, come next Saturday. So, I guess that's where I'll stop there with some of my comments and, open up to questions for you guys.
When you look at the format this year, obviously with 40 teams, you're not playing this weekend, you're playing the weekend after. Last year you had a bye week in the final week of conference play. Did that kind of provide a little bit of a template on how to handle this 2 weeks in between games as compared to just one?
Yeah, I think it did a little bit have that experience from last year and that bye. But it was a little different because, obviously this year you know who you're playing already. So, but just knowing what we did last year with having that extra week, and just what you're referencing is last year our final, conference game was the second to last game of the season within the conference. So we had that bye. And we kind of took that time to rest up, get as healthy as we could. We didn't know we were playing, so it was kind of getting back to the basics and really taking care of the fundamentals and sharpening that stuff back up as we were making our playoff run. And I think you can still take from that, like I said, that's kind of what we're going to do this first week is focus on. Even though we know who we're playing with Platville, a lot of the focus is trying to just make sure that our fundamentals are sharp. We're cleaning up things that maybe happened down the stretch in the season that we weren't as good at as we need to be to win the type of game we're going to play in next Saturday. And then also sprinkle in a little bit of Platville this week and just kind of get that introduction going and learning what we can about them. And then I think that the real meat and potatoes of your Platville plan is going to hit next Monday, and then we're going to be rolling right through next week getting that going. So that's kind of how we're approaching things right now. And I do think that having that roadmap and that experience from last year is definitely going to benefit us in terms of how we're handling this little 2-week period we have until you play a game, which sometimes can be a good thing when you're getting healthy and having that time, and it can be a little bit of a make you a little nervous thing when you're a coach and making sure we're not getting rusty and getting out to a slow start in our first game back after 2 weeks. So it's an important balance between getting healthy and also staying sharp.
Everybody's good at this. Every opponent you play from here on out. But were you surprised when you saw that you guys were playing Platville?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think both of us probably were a little bit. I think with the way they had this new NPI system that they have set up, where it's essentially a computer ranking system that kind of sets roughly the top 40 teams in the country, and obviously there was a few teams that were outside of that 40 that won their conference that got into the tournament. But kind of where Platville and us were sitting in that ranking, all the way through this whole time, we were kind of side by side. I think we were 12 and they were 13. And so if you were kind of deducing between, okay, where we stand and kind of looking at teams that were more in that range of here's some teams we could possibly play, I don't think Platville necessarily fell into that category. But obviously regionally, the way they have to set things up with travel and everything like that, that's kind of how it went. And, it kind of reminds me a little bit of 2 years ago when we got the first round and, we played lacrosse, and they had an excellent season. We had an excellent season, and I think everyone was surprised when that was the first round matchup. And I think it's hard for Platville to be the Wisconsin League champion and not get a chance to host. I honestly think both of us probably surprised, and they really kind of, to me, drew the short end of the stick from that standpoint, because they're certainly a deserving team to be able to be hosting a first round game. I mean, that league is as good of a league as you're going to play, anywhere. And for them to, win that league and run the way they did through some of those teams, I mean, really impressive season. Like I said, I think they're deserving of a home game, but that's the way the draw goes. And I think both of us will be ready to play on Saturday, and it should be a heck of a matchup.
Coach, this is your third straight year playing a team from that Wisconsin league in the playoffs. You played lacrosse 2 years ago, Whitewater last year. Do those games the last couple of years help prepare you for Platville this year and their style of play, or is it just next week this is who we got to play?
Yeah, I know. I definitely think it gives you some confidence knowing that we've gone up against this league in the past couple of years and been able to have success against it. Certainly, this is that what Platville did this year. I mean, super impressive, the run that they had through that conference, and so we know we're going to have our hands full with what they do on both sides of the ball. But yeah, it does give our guys confidence to know that we've played against one of the best leagues in the past before. We know we can handle that, and I think our schedule this year too, as I alluded to earlier, has kind of given us a little bit of confidence going into this thing too. We played a tough schedule. Going on the road the first 3 weeks of the season, playing Monmouth, St. John's, and Central all consecutively on the road. Being in that game over at Co, having to go over to Dubuque, all these games we had to go on the road and play in some tough environments, and then to be able to come back home and host for this game, I think it's a big thing too. So yeah, the experience of playing other teams in that league, the experience we've had with Platville in the scrimmages in the past year, and then, like I said, the schedule we set ourselves with this year, I think does give our guys confidence that, hey, we're as prepared as we can be to go out there and play in this style of game, which is going to be, one of the best games I think in the country in the first week of the playoffs.
When you look back at the week 2 game up at St. John's, what were the positives that came out despite not getting the result you wanted up there?
Yeah, I think we learned a lot about ourselves. I think we learned a lot about preparation and what it takes to make sure you're ready to roll. I think, I said it back then too. When you have a couple seasons like we had in 22 and 23, it can get pretty easy to think, okay, this is just winning is just kind of what happens, right? You just kind of go through the week and make sure you check the boxes, and then we show up at that place, and boom, here we go. We're going to play well. And I just think that it was it was good for us that time for our guys to realize, hey, the way that you prepare during the week is going to be significantly important to the way that you play on Saturday. Not just, it's not like we changed our schedule a bunch or anything like that, or just what we do during the week, but it's just what's the effort that you're putting in play to play out there at practice, and is it just kind of making sure I'm in the right spot, or is it competing at every rep to try to be your best? And I think that was the thing with some guys. I said we were one of the most experienced, inexperienced teams back at the beginning of the year. I think that little bit of that inexperience, like those guys had played in games, but maybe not had to be the guy and make all the plays. And so the way you prepared yourself last year when you were kind of in that, maybe, hey, I got a role on the team, but it's not being the best guy on the team, to now all of a sudden everyone's looking at me to make the plays. I think that was something that we were not preparing ourselves to do. And I think St. John's having that game on the schedule, kind of getting slapped in the face a little bit that day. And I said it on the radio a few weeks back, I really felt like we kind of got embarrassed over there. It's a tough word to use for our guys, but I think that's what they needed. And it really opened up our eyes to understand, like, hey, we got to make sure, hey, well, this isn't 2022 or 2023 anymore, it's 2024. Things might look a little different this year, but we're still capable of being great. But we got to make sure that we're putting in the time and the preparation it's going to take to be that. And I think that's what they learned from that. I think that showed up then right there the next week in Central. You go over there and just down to the wire, a 10-6 win, took that momentum from that game and just kind of carried it right on through the conference season. So yeah, I think the lesson learned there was just how we prepare, how we need to go about getting ourselves ready to go, and the guys embraced that and have taken off since. And it was, again, I can't understate, how important that game was to be on the schedule. I know it's not fun to have a loss, but that one really set the tone for everything that we need to be able to have accomplished this year. And that was great. That was great opportunity for us to set the tone for this season.
When you look at the tape, at the Platville, do you see Wartburg with any edges in any areas? Yeah,
I think it's going to be a really evenly matched game. That's what I would tell you. I think offensively, what they do, it's going to look similar to the way people have attacked us throughout the year. They still will. They've definitely established some running game this year, which I would think if people knew anything about Platville in the past, they're a little bit more of a spread you out, pass it a bunch. Now they've gotten a little bit more of a running attack mixed in, but they're able to spread you out. They like to get into some empty sets. They do deal the ball pretty quickly in the screen game, the quick hitters, some of the things that maybe have caused our defense a little bit of issue throughout the year. And I think we've gotten better at it as the season has progressed. But that's a little bit what they're good at. So I think, honestly, we've seen so much of it now, so we feel like we can be pretty prepared for the style of offense that they do run. Defensively, they show you a lot of different looks. They're very multiple on defense. They're going to have some guys standing up, giving you some simulated pressure looks. So your D-line won't always all have their hand on the ground, moving people around, trying to give you some different looks that way. Coverage drops. They can play multiple coverages with different people dropping play the same coverage, but then you got a different guy dropping that zone and that zone. And so they really do a good job of mixing things on defense. But same thing, our offense this year has seen a lot of that too. So I feel like our schedule, as I said before, has really prepared us for what they're going to throw at us. But at the same time, I don't know that we have an edge in any of those areas. I think it's going to be a very evenly matched in terms of personnel, in terms of what both teams are doing schematically. And I think it's going to boil down to, I think really our normal formula for winning. And that's, hey, can we consistently run the football? Can we stop the run and win the turnover battle and the field position battle? That's what I think this game's going to boil down to when it comes to, trying to win a football game.
You've had a decent amount of guys that have been banged up at times this year. One of them was Jake Walker. He's getting back to being healthy last week. Kind of dominated on that defensive line. Is Jake just kind of scratching the surface as a college football player?
No doubt. Jake, I think he, obviously early in the year, so Jake had an MCL injury in the Monmouth game that kind of carried over into the St. John's game and then into the beginning of the season. And so he was kind of dealing with some things early on in the year. And then as the season has progressed and he's gotten healthy, like you said, he is just kind of taken off. The week in and week out, probably where he really kind of, I thought in that Co game, he made a big impact in that Co game, and then moving forward from there, has just played really well. He's just hard to block. He's big and strong, and when he's moving the way he's capable of with his knee being more healthy now, he's a handful for an offensive line. And so certainly I think he's hitting his stride, but yeah, I still don't think we've seen the best even of Jake Walker yet, and that's exciting. The guys are, he was the conference player of the week this last week, had 12.5 tackles in the game and 2.5 tackles for loss, and, was a D3football.com team of the week, So yeah, he is hitting his stride at the right time. I'm excited to see what he can do in the playoffs. It was kind of like last year. You saw Jake really kind of burst on the scene late in the year, and he really dominated a couple of those really good teams in the playoffs. So he's going to be a key cog in our front if we're going to have success defensively. So yeah, I'm excited for him. And really, just like I said, hopefully as a team with this extra week, just getting as full strength as we can be. We've got a few injuries right now where we just know those probably aren't going to make their way all the way back at this point in the season. But there's still a few guys out there that we haven't had for a little while that we think we can get back, and that would be exciting for our team.
Last 2 years, making it to the semifinals, you've been on ESPN. New this year, every round of the tournament will be on ESPN. So kind of a two-part question. How did those last 2 years on that national network help build your brand, and how will it continue to build Wartburg football?
Yeah, I think just anytime you tell a recruit that you played a game on ESPN at the Division III level, it's kind of a big deal, right? There's not a lot of schools that are doing that at our level. And then, I think being able to host last year and bringing ESPN to our campus took our brand to another level. People saw what a game day environment looks like at Wartburg College, which is pretty special. And that was one of the best atmospheres I've ever been a part of. And obviously the game didn't go our way in that North Central game last year at home. But geez, that's one of my best memories of coaching, is just obviously what a game both teams played. It was a battle all the way to it was basically an ESPN Classic, right? And to have that out here in Walston Hoover Stadium, and to be able to have that type of environment on national television, I think is a huge thing for our program, and is something that as we continue to recruit, that will play a role. And I think just for our fans to have that excitement, to be able to be on national TV for our fans across, there's Wartburg alums all around the country, and for them to be able to go to a local establishment and get together and watch the game on ESPN, that's building the brand. There's so many alums that have responded to, oh man, we watched the game here, we watched the game there, and we got a chance to see you guys play on ESPN, and it just really brought so much attention and so many people back into the fold with our program. Our alums, whether they're football alums or just Wartburg alums, that are excited about what we're doing, and that's made it super special. I think that no matter how your season finishes, obviously at the end you want to win the national championship. Every team's goal is to do that, but when you can have the impact that we've had the last couple of years by playing in those type of games and playing on ESPN and bringing our fan base together, our alumni together, and have some people feel like those feelings of pride towards their alma mater. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about for our program, and I think our guys are doing a great job of representing Wartburg College, and hopefully we can keep doing that here as we make a run in the playoffs.
Another bigger picture question. Last week it came out. You had 38 academic all-conference kids. Means about 30% of the kids that were eligible for the award have at least a 3.5 GPA. What about your guys allows them to be so successful in really all facets, not only out there, but every other facet of their lives?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things about that. One is just that they've really bought into this idea. We talk about being humble, hungry, and smart. Now, you see it on some things about Wartburg and this and that. It's not just a slogan that we say to get it out there. It's something that our guys actually truly try to be. So our guys know that by being humble, they have a lot. There's always something to be better at. They're going to identify those things and work hard to be better at them. They're coachable, teachable. That's pretty important in being a good student. They're hungry, okay, and that's not just in football. That's not just going to the weight room and working hard and showing up at 4 o'clock for practice and working hard. That's doing that in the classroom. That's representing our program the right way. That's being hungry to be the best version of yourself in all that you do. And smart, and that smart part, it's not about, their study habits. It's more about, just kind of how they go about, treating people, the decisions that they make. I think decision making, it makes a smart person. When you keep your team in mind, you keep your family in mind, your coaches in mind, the people that care about you in mind when you're making decisions, you tend to make better decisions than if you're just worried about yourself. And I think we've got a lot of guys on our team that do that. And so you kind of combine being those things, that goes a long way in terms of helping you be successful in the classroom. I think the other thing is just we've got a lot of guys on our team that are serious about being good students. They chose Wartburg not just because we've got a great football program, but because, hey, our area that they want to get in, the area they want to get into, we're strong in that area, and they want to study and they want to do a good job in the classroom. They're trying to set themselves up for their future. That's one of the things I love about Division III football, is just that's what guys are doing here. It's not about NIL deals and transfer portals. It's about coming to get a great education, be with your teammates that you love playing football with, and do something you love doing every Saturday and have a passion for it. And so I think those are the things that have really allowed our guys to be successful, is that you become kind of a product of your environment. And we've created an environment here where, hey, doing a good job in the classroom and having a high academic standard is important. And I think just to add to your question there, the last 2 seasons, I also think it kind of ties in. If your team is good in the classroom, I think it also carries over to success in the football field. We've had 2 seasons in a row. You mentioned national semifinals, and in 2022 we set our program record for the best GPA in the fall that we've ever had as a team. And then in 2023 went back to the national semifinals and broke the GPA record again. And so, like I said, I think that's not just that didn't just occur out of the blue, right? That's something that these guys are working at. They really have bought into the culture we're trying to build, and they believe in the value of being the best version of themselves in everything that they do. And it's leading to great success in the classroom, and it's leading to great success on the field. And obviously we've got great leaders and great kids in our program. And, it doesn't hurt to have a guy like Owen Grover last year, who won as many awards as anyone I can ever remember. And I think guys, strive to, try to be like guys like Owen, and so, there's really a lot of good things happening in the program right now that are happening away from just wins and losses that maybe do get overlooked, and academics are part of that. And I just told the guys again last night, football is not an excuse. Being in the playoffs is not an excuse for not doing well academically. That's not a good excuse. So, hey, get your work done, and here we go. So I think they buy into that, and they're doing a great job of finding a good balance between those things. And they're going to be supported in doing both. That's the last thing, I guess, long-winded answer here, but it's just the support you find at Wartburg for both those areas. The faculty and staff here support our student athletes. They don't make it harder on them because they're a student athlete. Same thing, our coaches are supporting our guys and being great students. We're going to give them the support they need, and they're getting it from both sides, and that goes a long way to have that type of success in a long season like we have had for the last few years.
With the dominance you've had here at Walston Hoover Stadium, you have to feel pretty good going into next Saturday's game.
Yeah, no doubt. Anytime you get a chance to play at home, and just the way that we've played when we play here at home, it definitely adds some confidence to our guys, for sure. They love playing here at Walston Hoover Stadium. We know we're going to have a great crowd out there. We know that crowd's going to impact the opponent, and that just adds to the excitement of this opportunity. And yeah, I mean, anytime you get a home game, you're going to be pretty pumped about it, especially when we just got done having a season where we only got to play 4 of them in the regular season, and to see, when they put the pairings out that, hey, we get to play another home game. I know as soon as that popped up on the screen, the guys were pretty pumped about getting a chance to come back to Walston Hoover Stadium again and put on the black jerseys and crank it up together, because those are special days for sure. Any Saturday is special, but when you get to do it at home in front of the crowd that we have out here, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Coach, we saw Virginia scored his first touchdown this past Saturday. We know he was a great receiver in high school. Was that a play that was kind of, you were waiting and saving for senior day, or was it just a look that the Warriors defense gave you and you just had to take advantage of that?
We've been practicing that play for Tucker probably since about week 2. So it's been on the radar for a while, looking for the right opportunity, the right look for it. And we felt like, Saturday we were going to get that look. Now, Tucker did have to make a guy miss over there. So it wasn't quite as greased up as we had envisioned it. But we also got it to maybe the most athletic offensive lineman in the country. And so, he was able to make that one defender miss and find his way in the end zone. And certainly a special play for that to happen on senior day. I don't know that it was like, hey, we're going to do this for senior day only. But, I definitely played into the equation of, all right, we got ourselves to this third down situation. What do we think about the look we've gotten? And we had seen the look from them already. And so we said, heck yeah, let's get it out there. And like I said, Tucker did a great job of executing it. And like you said, I mean, he was, he's the all-time leading receiver at DeWitt, Central DeWitt High School. I mean, he's got good hands, and he's still a pretty darn good athlete, even though he's 310 pounds now. And he showed it on that play. And I think hopefully that continues just to show a little bit more about what he's capable of, and keep those eyes out there in the NFL maybe on taking a good look at this guy.
Last Saturday, you had 9 different players score touchdowns in that game, including a few seniors who aren't exactly household names with Wartburg football, but they got in the end zone. But seemingly watching that game, your guys were just as excited for those guys as they were for anybody else or any other touchdown you scored this year. Does that speak to that, those things you just touched on a few moments ago?
Yeah, no doubt. The guys, they really do care about each other. I mean, it doesn't matter. I think that's one of the beauties of what we've got going right now. It doesn't matter who makes a play. Everyone's excited for that guy. Whether it was, when the starters were in there, and it's not like, oh man, this guy got to score the touchdown, I wish I got that. That's just not the attitude these guys have. Someone scores and they're all running down there full speed to go celebrate with their teammate. And but it's even more special when, like you said, some of those guys that aren't your household name or the name that's been scoring all those touchdowns all season, they get a chance to get in the end zone, because all these guys understand, these seniors, how much work they've put in throughout their career. And to get an opportunity like that on senior day, when maybe you haven't had as many of those opportunities, and you get in the end zone, how big of a deal that is. And I think what it does, like you said, it shows the camaraderie and the love that these guys have for each other. And it also shows that it's a sign of these guys just understanding like the work that goes into doing this, and to stick with it, even though you're not the guy that's playing 65, 70 snaps on the day, but you're a senior that just walked across in front of the crowd out there, and you put in all that time and effort with, a little less to show for it maybe than another guy in terms of your personal statistics. But knowing the work those guys put in and the value they have to our team, and we would not be hoisting these championships like we have been without every single one of those guys. I think that's what it kind of shows you when you see those guys get excited for one of the guys like that maybe haven't had those opportunities yet, is they know the work they're putting in, they respect them just like they would if they had scored 20 touchdowns in the year. And that's one of the key things too. I think when you have a good team where you're having a lot of success, your stats don't really, set up how people respect you or how people look at you. That has nothing to do with it. It's about the work you're putting in. It's about the commitment you have to your teammates. And we got a lot of guys on our team that are committed to their teammates, and that shows on plays like that.
how much you feel the postseason experience from the past couple seasons will factor into this year's postseason for your group?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to be able to have postseason experience. Now, again, like I said before, it's kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning of the season. One of the most experienced and inexperienced teams. A lot of these guys have been around those playoff games and were there for them, and their role in them might not have been quite the same. Now, they've gained a lot of experience playing in some big time games throughout the year, but we don't want to just say, okay, yeah, we've been in the playoffs for the last 2 seasons. I guess we're just ready. We still got to, again, understand preparing ourselves the right way is going to be really important. And so, but I do think that having that experience the last 2 years, like you said, playing on ESPN in the national semifinals for the last 2 years, definitely will play a factor in the confidence level of our guys when we take the field. We know that what we're capable of. We've been in these situations before. It's not our first time. But like I said, there's going to be some new roles in those situations, and we got to be prepared to compete at the level we need to in those roles to be successful in these big time games. Because like you guys said earlier, I mean, there's not any easy games any longer. These are all going to be tough, and certainly Platville is going to be one of the best teams we've seen all year.
Can you treat a postseason game like any other game?
I think it's I think you kind of have to. I wouldn't want our guys to put so much stock in the game that they put so much pressure on themselves in this one, so much more than they did in the other ones. It's easy to say, hard to do, but that whole nameless, faceless thing I've talked about for plenty of years. I think, and that's where that's a Coach Willisism that I learned back when I was playing. But I think it's important that you kind of have that. If you focus too much on, it's a playoff game and it's this team from this league and they do this, that, and the other, you can kind of get yourself a little, anxious, right? You get a little nerved up and you start start overthinking some things. You just worry about preparing yourself the same way you have for the 10 games that we played this year, and you work your tail off and try to be the best version of yourself. Well, that should be good enough for us to be successful on Saturday. And that's what I want the guys to focus on. It's just making sure that, hey, if we're getting better this week and we're focused on making sure I'm taking care of my business and being the best version of myself, and every guy does that, then we got a great chance to go out there next Saturday and win a football game. If we get too caught up in trying to compare ourselves with Platville here and Platville there, or this team here and this team there, then sometimes you maybe lose a little bit of track of your preparation and don't focus on the right things to get yourself ready to go. So yeah, we're going to try to do the best we can to try to treat it like any other game. But I think in the end, like you're saying, it's it's hard to do.
Well, last question before we bring the student athletes in. How do you approach this week? Is it a bye week in your mind? Do you use it to self-scout with your coaching staff, or what do the guys do Saturday as well? Yeah. So the way that we're approaching this week is we're trying to keep ourselves in a mode of operation that's close to what we normally do if we were going to play a game this week. So, not everyday practice, which is a little bit different. So we do still want to, like I said, get rest and recovery. But we also want to make sure that our guys are staying active and staying sharp. And so kind of the way we've done it, we practiced yesterday. We're off from practice today, but then we'll have it again tomorrow. Then we are going to practice on Saturday, kind of right around the time that we'd be playing next Saturday. So, playoffs, you bump up a little bit earlier. You start at noon. Things happen a little earlier in the day. So we're gonna have, it'll be a shorter practice, but just getting out there on Saturday, doing something, kind of feeling like you did something on Saturday, and then just sit around watching all these games. But like I said, preparing ourselves. So we're going to be active on Saturday. We'll still have a Sunday, kind of like we would if we had played a game, where we come in and get a workout in and do some treatment in the training room, that type of thing, and then we'll be back at it, getting ourselves prepared. And next week will be a lot more like a game week. So again, it's not totally like a bye week in the season this week. Usually we would take Saturday and Sunday off in a normal bye week and give the guys a little time that way. But we are still intermixing our off days that we need to take off, and also we need some rest, and we want to be healthy. So like I said before, it's kind of that balance between being fresh and being sharp. And I think we've got a pretty good plan for how we're going to go about doing that. Thank you for your time.
Yep.